We are back. In Transit makes its return to New York 1. I'm Jose Martinez. Each week, we'll be covering all things mass transit in the city, highlighting the most important transit stories of the week, with guest segments, trivia, and some Hollywood moments. We begin this week with the ads at the MTA considered inflammatory. The agency's board this week approved a blanket ban on advertisements deemed capable of inciting violence. But the vote wasn't unanimous and is causing some controversy of its own.
Decided in one song.
First, the microphone gave out on firebrand blogger Pamela Geller.
The best.
Then the MTA voted, in effect, to silence her, banning Geller's inflammatory advertisements from the transit system, along with all other political and opinion ads. Geller spurred the policy change by paying for a series of controversial billboards, like this pro-Israel ad that said its enemies believe, quote, killing Jews is worship that draws us close to Allah. The MTA called the ads hateful and capable of inciting violence.
You call my ads hateful? Aren't there actual quotes?
Geller repeatedly battled the MTA in court, charging the transit agency with stifling her constitutional right to free speech. Last week, a federal judge agreed. So the MTA decided to enact a blanket ban on all political advertising. The board approved the new policy 9-2, over objections that it was doing something unconstitutional, even un-American.
It is unconscionable that you are thinking about barring all political ads from the transit system. What distinguishes the United States and other free societies from those that are not is that we allow people to put up these kinds of things, and we have the ability to look away if we don't like what we're seeing.
Some supporters of the new policy said Geller's ads have no place in the transit system.
Neither the Quran, nor the Bible, nor the Torah, nor any other compass of conscience condones hateful speech.
Others defended the ban, saying the issue had become a distraction and the capital program is what the MTA should be focusing on. This policy change comes at a cost, one that officials called manageable. And speaking of that capital program, there's a $14 billion funding gap that needs to be filled. But the MTA chief says if the money to maintain and expand the transit system doesn't materialize, riders won't foot the bill.
We have never, ever closed the capital program on the backs of the fare payers. That's unconscionable. That's not our desire. That's not what we're going to do. But we have to get support from the stakeholders who can bring finance to the table and enable us to fund it.
The MTA is losing $1 million a week. That's right, $1 million a week because of this. Fare beating. Now the city council is proposing to decriminalize minor offenses, including turnstile jumping, and that has the cash-strapped MTA crying foul. The agency says it lost $50 million to fare beating last year alone. That's more than 100,000 free rides a day, and there are fears that the move could return the system to an era filled with high crime and graffiti. The state's chief judge, Jonathan Lippman, says he's in favor of decriminalizing some lower-level offenses, but not fare beating. Police Commissioner Bratton and Mayor de Blasio agree. In an interview with New York 1's Errol Lewis on Tuesday, the mayor drew a hard line.
Fare evasion has historically been an offense where a number of the people who were intercepted proved to have a criminal history and, in many cases, a weapon on them or an outstanding warrant.
So how long have we been waiting for the 2nd Avenue subway? Who can remember when chatter first started about it? But now, after years of delays and setbacks, things are really starting to take shape under Manhattan's East Side. And now we have some pictures to prove it. This is a shot looking down into what will be the 72nd Street station. This shows the escalators at the station, though they won't be ready for passengers for a while. And this is a shot of the 86th Street station, where heating and ventilation work is being done. It's hoped that the first phase of the $4.4 billion project will open by December of 2016. Sure, we have to wait for the 2nd Avenue subway, but look what's open in the Bronx. Splashes of color now welcome riders at 2 Bronx stations on the Pelham line. Welcome to the Garden of Earthly Delights at the Zarega Avenue station, featuring large glass mosaics and hand-formed porcelain panels showing the Four Seasons through flower imagery. All the work of artist James Arredondo. Have a Happy Day, a glass mosaic design of geometric shapes, now livens up the Burra Avenue station. Artist Sune Tark's design brings natural light to the open-air platforms. Riders say it's good to have the stations back. Subway travel this weekend could get tricky for some riders. Here are some changes in store. On the one line, South Ferry-bound trains will run express from 145th Street to 96th Street in Manhattan from 11:45 p.m. Friday to 5 a.m. Monday. 3 trains are suspended in both directions between Franklin and New Lots Avenues in Brooklyn, Saturday and Sunday, 6:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. 3 shuttle buses are available. Now on the 5 train, there will be service suspended between Eastchester Dyer Avenue and East 180th Street in the Bronx from 11:45 p.m. Friday to 5 a.m. Monday. For E-Train riders, Jamaica Center, Parsons Archer-bound trains will run express from Queens Plaza to Roosevelt Avenue from 12:15 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, and from 12:15 a.m. to 5 a.m. Monday. On the L, trains are suspended in both directions between 8th Avenue and Lorimer Street in Brooklyn from 11:30 p.m. Friday to 5 a.m. Monday. 3 shuttle buses are available. Service will be operating between Lorimer Street and Rockaway Parkway. And 6 train riders, beginning Monday at 5 a.m., the 103rd Street Station southbound platform in Manhattan will be closed for 3 months. There's much more ahead on New York One's In Transit. Coming up, I sit down with John Raskin from the Writers Alliance to talk about subway horror stories. And as we head to the break, here's some transit trivia for you. For our first show, let's go way back in subway history. When did the first underground line open, and where did it go? Here's a hint. It was more than 100 years ago. The answer is coming up.
You promised me. Sponsored by 1-800-JUNK. Goodbye, junk. Hello, relief.
Meet Jill.
So
She
what,
thought
Brandon?
you
I
better
don't
if you
know
see
what
the
about
doctor, and she might have to the identity thief who stole Jill's social security number, 2 credit cards, ruining Jill's credit and her dream of retirement. Every year, millions of people just like you experience how a little personal information in the wrong hands could wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and once every 2 seconds, someone becomes a victim. LifeLock offers comprehensive identity theft protection. The patented LifeLock Identity Alert System lets you know about threats to your identity by text, phone, or email. And LifeLock even offers bank account takeover alerts and alerts for your investment and retirement accounts. LifeLock's comprehensive identity theft protection helps guard your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home. And LifeLock's certified resolution agents are there to help restore your identity if you become a victim of identity fraud. They know what to do. And that's not all. LifeLock stands behind their protection with the power of their $1 million service guarantee. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose when you call LifeLock right now and try 60 days of identity theft protection. Risk-free. 60 days. Risk-free. Use promo code ONGUARD. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value. Free. Call 1-800-417-9121 and use promo code ONGUARD. Or go to lifelock.com/OnGuard to try 60 days of LifeLock Identity Theft Protection risk-free. And get a document shredder free. Call 1-800-417-9121 right now and help protect your identity, your money, and your credit. Call 1-800-417-9121 right now.
Welcome back to In Transit. I'm Jose Martinez. Before I sit down with John Raskin from the Writers Alliance, here's the answer to our trivia question. I asked, when did the first underground line open, and where did it go? Here's the answer. I told you we were going way back for this one. The first underground line opened in October 1904. It stretched from City Hall in Manhattan to 145th Street. Now, as any commuter has noticed, it's gotten a little tougher to get around on the subway. According to the MTA, there were close to 50,000 subway delays in February. That's up from 43,606 in January of this year. And overcrowding delays this year have more than doubled. It all makes for some subway horror stories, which the advocacy group, the Writers Alliance, has been collecting these last couple of months. And joining us now in the studio To talk about the project and a whole lot more is John Raskin, Executive Director of the Writers Alliance. John, thank you for joining us. You're the inaugural guest on this
Thank you for having me. I'm
reboot
excited.
of In Transit. Well, and hopefully we'll be seeing you a lot more in the future. Now, we want to talk a little bit about this Horror Stories project that the Writers Alliance has been doing. What spurred it?
Well, look, we're a grassroots organization, and we started hearing from our members all over the city that their subway rides had gotten noticeably worse, right? People with more delays than usual, people have to allow extra time, people who were late for meetings or interviews or work, and we started hearing it and we thought, look, you can complain to us, but let's take this story to the people who can really do something about it. And that, of course, is Governor Cuomo and state lawmakers who have to figure out whether or not to fund the MTA.
Right, they're the ones with a lot of the say as to whether the system will get the $32 billion that the MTA would like to have put into it. So what happens next then after you've collected all of these subway horror stories?
Yeah, so we've been collecting the stories through our website and Facebook, and we even went out into the subway and started talking to people, and we're compiling them all into a book, Volume 1, Subway Horror Stories. We're going to take that book to Governor Cuomo and members of the state legislature to kind of show them the stories from the riders' experience.
Is it then the hope that they might then get behind pushing for what the MTA says it needs?
Yeah, well, that's the issue of the day, is whether or not we're going to fund the MTA 5-year capital program. That's the source of the money that pays for new subway cars and new rail and new buses. It fixes all the problems that we're seeing in people's commutes.
Sure, as we mentioned, those delays, and certainly in the winter, riders will naturally experience more problems. What were some of the horror stories? I just off the top of my head can recall that 7 train being stuck near Queensboro Plaza a few months back. What were some of the other ones?
Many people made the argument that the 7 train is itself a subway horror story. But more broadly, there was a period where the A, C, and E lost power. There were multiple times people reported to us when they couldn't even get on to the 1, 2, 3 platform because it was so crowded because the trains hadn't come. The B and the D stopped running because of a broken rail. It was just, throughout the system, everything started to break down, and it's not people's imaginations. Delays really are up, and part of the problem is years of underinvestment in public transportation.
No, the numbers don't lie. As we pointed out here just a few seconds back, the delays have gone up. It's not your imagination. It's gotten more crowded. The ridership just this week was announced that it is at a high, so it naturally creates problems.
Yeah, it is, and it's not an amorphous problem with an amorphous solution, right? These are specific problems with equipment breaking down and trains going out of service, and the specific solution is that we need to fully fund the MTA's capital program, not force the MTA to further push repairs into the future, and not force the MTA to charge riders more in fares.
Always an issue for every rider. And now, John, thank you again for joining us. No doubt this will make interesting reading for Governor Cuomo.
That's what we're hoping.
The Subway Horror Stories comes to his bookshelf. Thanks again for joining us, John. We'll see
Thank
you
you.
soon. Now we move from nightmare commutes to kids helping make your travels a bit more of a dream. Now take a look at this, and this, and this, all great works of art, and all intended to make the Port Authority bus terminal a happier, more colorful place. There was no shortage of 5th graders from PS 151 on the Upper East Side who headed over to the bus terminal on 41st Street and 8th Avenue to breathe some new life into the building and give commuters who rush in and out every day a reason to pause, to check out the masks, the murals, and the paintings.
You can kind of express your feelings through painting. Hard work pays off, and that's all we did.
This art's pretty cool, and we love it.
Each week here on In Transit, we're going to be highlighting the subway in the movies. And who could forget this scene from the end of Saturday Night Fever, with John Travolta's character, Tony Manero, riding the train from Brooklyn to Manhattan after a tumultuous night. That about does it for our first round here of In Transit, but before we go, we want to hear from you. How's your commute? How's your station? We want to know. Follow us on Twitter, where we're using the hashtag NY1InTransit. We'll see you down the line.
Closed captioning is